from his appearance in the parking lot. But unlike Steven, who was trying to do comedy, he's out there buying weed. Oh, you know what I'm talking about, huh? Your friend, Adam, Mick G.
So I started going to therapy. Normally people are more supportive of that, so we'll get there, it's cool. I've been dealing with depression for a long time, and I'm okay with it. I think a lot of people have like a more dramatic perception of what depression means. And I don't want to minimize it for anyone else, but for me personally, I'm not dealing with like suicidal tendencies or anything like that. I just kind of sit around every night and wonder if it's like too early for me to be going to bed. I like to eat Doritos in the dark. I masturbate when I cry, which is different from crying when I masturbate. And a lot of people assume that this comes from like some kind of childhood trauma. But, like, my childhood was pretty good. Actually, my childhood was so good that pretty much everything in my life has just been going downhill since 1999. And it was a good year for me, man. Like, my dog Copper was still alive. My parents were still together. I got my first pube. But what really stands out to me now is having played on the same youth soccer team as Casey Catanzaro. If anyone doesn't know, Casey Catanzaro was a junior Olympic gymnast who then became the very first female American Ninja Warrior champion and is now a WWE superstar. But for 3 months, when we were 9 years old, Casey Catanzaro and I were athletic equals. Yeah. And I haven't seen or talked to Casey for like 20 years. I'm genuinely very happy for her and like everything that she's accomplished. But if I'm being honest, I die a little bit inside every time I'm sitting home alone in my apartment and I see her featured in a Fairfield Inn Hotel and Suites commercial. It's like, that could have been me. No, fuck you. It could have been, like, if I spent less time in my life smoking weed and eating disco fries, like, I could have gotten my ass nailed. But it's too late for me now, and it's kind of hard to accept. I haven't done a cartwheel, like, in my entire life. And doing a cartwheel is a lot like losing your virginity, where if it hasn't happened by the time you're 30, it's just not going to happen for you. Last year, Casey made an appearance at WrestleMania 35 in front of 100,000 hometown fans at MetLife Stadium. And last year, I showed my close friends and family 300 photos of my cat. She's become this like national role model for female empowerment and athletic excellence. And all I've accomplished in the past 20 years is grow more pubes. And this is all kind of part of the problem for me. My therapist explained that I'm prone to what's called cognitive distortions. Is there any other therapy people here? Anyone want to admit it? No one wants to admit it? That's cool. All right. So pretty much cognitive distortion means like I don't always perceive the reality of a given situation, right? So like I take things real personally. I always assume like the worst possible outcome is going to happen. I'm still bitter over a teammate on my youth soccer team from 20 years ago. She never passed the ball either, man. Like, never. I was open. And it's all kind of hard for me to accept because, like, I never really thought I would grow up to be a therapy person. Like, I went to high school with a kid who shit himself until he was 17. And I really thought he was going to have more baggage to unpack when he got to adulthood. But I saw him at the 10-year reunion, and he's now a happily married mailman with a mortgage. And I think it's fucked up, because, like, if one of us was going to have issues, like, I really thought it should have been him. And my therapist tells me it's not cool to think that someone doesn't, like, deserve happiness just because they shit themselves at the junior prom. And even though we all had a ride in that limo for 40 minutes... and it cost me a $200 cleaning fee. Ultimately, I need to be responsible for my own feelings, even if no one's responsible for his colon. I'm still super immature. I'm single, I live alone. Sometimes I feel like I'm a single parent, except the child I'm trying to raise is myself. And I'm a dog shit parent. I'm drunk all the time, I break shit when the Yankees lose. The only thing I can cook for dinner is Chef Boyardee. It's tough to try and raise a man-child in this kind of environment. At least if I was a single parent, I could like make the kid do some of the chores, right? But I only have the cat and he just sleeps all day. And I don't know if that's just part of being a cat or if like my depression's contagious. When I was a kid, I used to think that like being an adult meant I wouldn't have to do chores at all anymore. Which is it's a silly thing to think, but when I was a kid, I also used to think that like Lion King was based on a true story. So like I was just a fucking idiot. I went through a phase for a while where I was getting real depressed that like a lot of my friends were getting married and buying houses and having babies on purpose. But then like a couple years later, all those same friends started like getting divorced, lose half the house, they'd lose half the baby. Like the judge made them King Solomon the baby. The other day, baby boomers used to have the 7-year itch. Millennials don't have the attention span for that shit. Like, I have friends whose marriages only lasted like 18 months. And my buddy calls me the other day, he's going through a rough patch. Him and his wife are arguing a lot, they're disagreeing on how they're raising their kids. And I'm like, bro, I'm here for you, anytime you want to talk, I'll listen. But just so that you know, you need to taper your expectations of what my input in this conversation is going to be. Because like this morning, I drank rancid milk. And like I knew it was rancid. I hadn't gone grocery shopping for 3 weeks. I took it out of the fridge. I smelled it. But I'm an adult now, and I need to start being responsible for my own decisions. I mean, I really fucking hate grocery shopping. I'd rather starve than have to go grocery shopping. And obviously that's not true. But you get what I'm trying to, like, I really fucking hate it. The other day I'm in the grocery store, I'm in the produce section. I'm toying with the idea of buying kale. Because I want my fridge to smell like moldy cardboard, and then I'll just throw it away later. And there's a father pushing a 3-year-old son in the shopping cart. And he's trying to like make heads or tails out of this shopping list that like obviously his wife had written for him and he just doesn't fucking understand anything on it. And as he's pushing the cart down the aisle, his son is reaching out of the shopping cart and he's grabbing all the rolls of plastic bags and he's just licking the sides of all of them. Just like, And I'm like holding a bag of kale that like I already wasn't gonna eat. And I'm just watching this kid like slob knob just all over these bags. Just, And like I'm not turned on, but I can't really look away at the same time. But like what was bothering me about it is like now the rest of us have to deal with like this Ebola outbreak. Or is it E. coli? Or is it Ebola or E. coli? But the rest of us are dealing with this like biochemical outbreak because this kid can't be responsible for his like half of the King Solomon baby. My therapist was actually the one that recommended like I start giving stand-up a try, which is like super fucked up if you think about it, because like the entirety of our interactions are just me confiding like my deepest fears and insecurities to her, and like her takeaway is apparently just like, yeah, it's moderately entertaining. But like it's not the worst advice she's given me either. She's been like super persistent that I start dating again, which it's been a while. Like I'm starting to worry my virginity might grow back. And I'm like, I haven't gotten a blowjob for like 23 years. But Uncle Billy gets paroled in 6 months, so my life might change. Unless someone teaches him how to use Tinder, because I gained like 300 pounds since the last time he saw me. I can't compete with all these young thoughts. But yeah, my therapist has like this insane confidence in me, it's definitely misplaced. It's like this sweet, like almost kind of motherly, like, well, what young lady wouldn't want to go to the Sadie Hawkins dance with a handsome boy like you? Like all of them, apparently. And I did go on a date recently. Thanks, yeah. I'm not trying to brag, it didn't go well. Like, we're 20 minutes in, this girl starts telling me all this, like, really personal information I thought that she should have been more embarrassed by. Like, she tells me she just started watching Lost. And, like, it's 2019, we know that show's bullshit. Like, it's been off the air for 10 years, like, there's no excuse to be watching that show. If Jacob wanted to protect us all, he would have never let them make that bullshit show. And, like, I knew this girl was gonna, like, make bad decisions because she agreed to go on a date with me to TGI Fridays. But, like, I expected a different kind of bad decision, like, let's get matching tattoos, or, you know, like, yeah, I'll wear a blindfold. Like, fuck it, I'll take plan B in the morning. But I draw the line at, like, I'm gonna watch 200 hours of this bullshit fucking TV show and never figure out why the fuck there were polar bears on that island. So I needed an out, so I just decided I'd shit myself and leave her with the bill. Because unless she has her own cognitive distortions, she'll get over it in 10 to 20 years. I told my therapist about that date, and she told me that she was proud of me because, you know, I was trying and I put myself out there. And I guess really that's like kind of what I'm trying to do now. I'm really just trying to make my therapist proud. You know, I want to talk about my depression, talk about my pubes, and talk about high school classmates shitting themselves. Thank you guys, that's my time. Thank you all for coming out so much. Thank you, Comedy Cove, and thank you, my therapist.
Adam Mick. Ah, we having fun now?